Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk.
Hello, everyone. This is Roger Chen from University of San Francisco Center for Business Studies and Innovation, Asia Pacific. Welcome, BV Jagadeesh, and also thank you for joining our interview program. Would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes. First of all, Roger, thank you so much for having me as part of this. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be associated with University of San Francisco and then be part of this. I came to this country in 1982, and I actually had already finished my master's degree in India itself, and I had worked for a couple of years, and I happened to just get a job in a Silicon Valley high technology company. And since then, pretty much I have worked all my life until I started my own in 1993. I pretty much had worked in mostly startup companies. So I was sort of fortunate to work with different kinds of startup companies so that even though I was an engineer for many, many years, I got to actually see different aspects of building the product and then bringing the product to the market as well. I started my own first company end of 1993, which is Excelus Communications, where we pioneered the whole concept of internet data centers. We had version 1 of the AWS cloud that we used to offer to our customers. The company, we went public in 1998. I left the company in 2000 to start another company called NetScaler, which actually solved the problem for this hyper growth that the data centers were experiencing because of the server inefficiency. We dramatically reduced almost like 10:1 in terms of the number of servers that people used to deploy before to people deployed with the NetScaler. So that reduced tremendous data center footprint consumption, power consumption, the overall cost of running a data center for corporations. And that company, as you know, after 9/11, the entire market sort of collapsed. So we'll discuss that a little bit later. But eventually we came back and we built a flagship product, the NetScaler load balancers, which then started to do extremely well. And in 2005, Citrix came forward to acquire us. So for the last 10, 12 years or so, I've been primarily focused as an angel investor, and I'm working with the next generation of entrepreneurs, mostly in B2B and enterprise infrastructure, software, SaaS companies. About 40% of my time I spend on nonprofit organizations, both in the US as well as in India.
Discussion topic: Uncertainties and best practices in product market fit.
Looking at your kind of entrepreneurship journey, my first question basically relating to the very early stage of the startup companies, where they kind of search for what we call the product market fit, the market, the customers. So you have done several successful startup companies. You have helped many of these early stage companies. So what's your observation about the typical mistakes or the good practice or the rules that startup company to follow as they search for so-called product market fit?
Yeah. This is actually one of the most challenging aspects of building a startup company into a successful company. And even in the product market fit, by the way, there are several journeys that the entrepreneur has to go through. There is an early market adoption, and there is the exponential growth part of it. So both are aligned to some extent, but at the same time, you have to be very watchful as to the kind of product that you need to bring out in order to go through that exponential growth. So having said that, the biggest challenge of the product market fit, right, is obviously a entrepreneur starts with a hypothesis of a problem that exists in the market, and his or her ability to solve that problem to the customer. So that's the starting point of any startup company. There is a hypothesis, and you start with the hypothesis, and I know to a great extent how to address and solve that problem. And lots of things can change during the process. So one is the product may get delayed substantially because of the complexity of the product. Other one is competition that you are not even aware, because everybody is startup. Somebody may release the product similar to yours way ahead of time and then get the entire momentum that you probably should have got, right? Kind of like, if you see what happened with Google and ChatGPT, right? Even at that large company situations, you bump into these issues. The third one is that the people themselves may fall apart for various reasons, right? The founders may fall apart, or some key engineers that you have or key architects that you have may fall apart, which could cause a tremendous delay or not build a good quality product, right? These are the challenges that you have. Now, let's assume things go well, you build the product, and based on the hypothesis, you start bringing that product to the market. And if the problem still exists the way you had envisioned, then obviously customers would love your product because you have been engaged in a conversation during the product development cycle. It's not like you started the company and then you produce the company and you produce the product. And it's not like there is a big gap of conversation with the customer. So that's the biggest mistake anybody can make. So a smart founder is the one is constantly engaged with the customer during the entire product development cycle. And if you are smart enough, you should also bring some of these customers as a customer advisory board to sort of give you constant feedback as the market is changing, as situation is changing with the customer, so that you can incorporate, many of these things, right? So let's assume things go well and you bring the product out, and then you bring the product to the customers, and then you start doing the proof of concept with several of these customers that you are engaged with the conversation. So in order for a customer to ultimately pay a check to buy the product, the product has to solve a problem. And the problem it has to solve has to be, what we call as a must-have or a painkiller kind of a product. It cannot be a nice-to-have kind of a product. And number three is, if it is fitting into a customer environment, you better have thought through the entire ecosystem of how this product actually sits in, right? So for example, if I'm building an infrastructure product, like a NetScaler kind of a product, right? I take the product and I must know what are all the other components that exist, and do I fit in smoothly into that environment? Okay. So that means there could be a Cisco router, there could be a Juniper router, there could be an Arista switch, all of these things that exist as part of the ecosystem. And I have to fit into that ecosystem very seamlessly. And many a times, especially when you are building core infrastructure, mission critical kind of a product, a lot of entrepreneurs would go to the customer and say, hey, replace your existing infrastructure with my product. I can do it. Almost 99.9999% of the time, customer will not agree to it. Which means you need to be strategic enough to go solve a particular pain sitting along with the other products. And that is the pain that is very important for the customer to be solved.
Thank you for watching.